everyone, welcome back to Crypto Crayfish. Today we'll go through the markets, what we see coming next, how things are looking, and we'll discuss full transparency of my current positions in the cryptoverse. That's something we do on this channel is full transparency, so you can see how I'm actually positioning for moves in either direction, and hopefully you all enjoyed that and enjoy this video and find it fun to see someone else's losses. It's always a fun time, right? And gains, hopefully. But it's been a challenging few months in the cryptoverse. I think there's not very many people except maybe the perma bears who made money, and those perma bears have lost a lot of money the last few years. As Warren Buffett often says, the bears sound smart and the bulls make money. So let's jump right into it. Here are my current crypto investments. I'm in BitU, which is a 2x leveraged Bitcoin ETF. Really I'm looking to get out of leverage, guys, but I was in leverage earlier on this year, and so feel like I'm stuck with it a little bit for now. I know that's a little bit of a fallacy, but also with Bitcoin, hopefully, especially entering after large corrections, you can avoid as much downside volatility. And of course, I'm ready for the possible consequences if that comes. So I'm currently holding 1,240 shares for a total cost of around 55K. I'm currently down about 10K or 11K on that position. And I'm not worried about it. The average for me is about in the low 90s. I have a plan to buy more if it were to go down to mid-low 70s. And we'll talk about whether we think that move is still coming. But I think, there's plenty of people with better positioning, but there's also plenty of people who, are avoiding getting in because they are trying to find the exact bottom. And I think overall, you just need to, slowly DCA. That's what I've been doing over the past few weeks on weakness. I've gotten a few buys below 80K, which is good. And of course, the all-time highs at 110. So I'm kind of coming into the lower half of that zone as far as my cost basis, being in the low 90s or high 80s, as I, hopefully continue to buy a little bit more. And that's where I'm sitting at. Obviously, I'm at a loss for now. But overall, Bitcoin is holding up pretty well. We can talk about, we still think that 72 to 74K region could get hit. And we've talked about why in the past. Just to do a little recap for you, if you're looking on a little bit more of a zoomed in chart, this 72K is where that prior all-time high was in late March. And Bitcoin sometimes likes to tap that level. So I think it's really going to depend on macro, guys. Macro is showing some really strong bottoming signals. Traditionally, when it gets this much breadth and such that we've been seeing the last few days, we want to see some follow through, but traditionally it can mark a bottom. And again, when everyone's calling for recession, it's usually not when a recession is coming. So I do think macro is nearing a bottom, but I think we could get one more shakeout in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And that could potentially hit Bitcoin as well, sending it back into the 70K. So be prepared for that eventuality, just in case it happens. Again, I don't think it necessarily has to happen. I do think, I did at least think it was the most likely about a week ago. Now I'm maybe a bit more 50-50. It does seem like that 80K level is holding pretty well. And so far we've just had slight dips into the 70s that have really been bought up really quickly. I mean, you can see it's a matter of hours in both these scenarios. And so that looks pretty strong to me. And I'm not fully convinced we're going to get those lower 70s, but it's always possible. And I'm going to give it about 50-50. We have either one more low, and then I think that would be it, or potentially we just continue this basing structure until we start moving higher, and maybe don't go below the low we've already set at around 76, 77K. So that is my general perspective on the market. This blue line, once we're really above that, we're going to start getting back into this original range. There's also the bull market support band between, high 80s and mid 90s. I can actually show you that on this chart. And then I think once you break out above the bull market support band, again, that's going to take a lot of volume, right? There's a fair amount of resistance on the charts in the mid 90s, and then of course at 100, because that's a key psychological level. But I do think it's coming, and I do think macro's going to be solid. I do think the M2 money supply has done pretty well, and that should be kicking in sometime in the next month. People have different ideas on when exactly that will be. Some people think 75 days. Some people think a little bit over 100. Here's the bull market support band as promised. And we can look at it currently. You can see currently it's ranging from 87.6 to almost 94K. And that's a pretty wide bull market support band. Obviously, we are below that right now. So really, those are the first hurdles. We almost touched that 87.6 earlier yesterday, but are now below it again. So we're kind of in that basing structure. Again, I'll continue to accumulate maybe a little bit more, but really I want to keep the cash I have on hand for potential downside protection. If we go lower, I can buy some dips rather than just being in a largely losing position and not being able to do anything. So that's important psychologically, and I'm not going to go too crazy on that side of things. My exit plan would be, somewhere around between 120 and 130K Bitcoin, which might sound crazy to you, but if Bitcoin breaks this all-time high convincingly, I think we could get some pretty quick movement and a potential blow off top as well. So those are what I'm looking at. I really don't think altcoins are going to do well. The Fed yesterday lowered its quantitative tightening, but there's a lot of people who think they lowered it from 25 to 5, and that is what they did with the Fed balance sheet, but there's also a mortgage balance sheet that's still at about, I believe they said it's still at $35 billion. So that means really they went from $60 billion down to $40 billion. Still good, still helpful for Bitcoin and monetary and liquidity, but likely not quite as big a deal as a lot of people on Twitter are saying. Twitter is a nightmare, guys. Really don't trust anything on there. Try and just tune out the noise and focus on the broader market cycle. And hopefully you're kind of surviving this volatility. It's been pretty crazy in the stock market, but the DXY is still looking quite bearish, which is quite good for risk assets like Bitcoin. You can see we got this huge breakdown here since really Trump took office. That was the high, and then we've been cooking lower ever since. We got this huge drop off during that kind of week period in early March, and then now we've stabilized a little bit in this range. I think we could get short-term bounces, but overall, I think the general direction is down. So that's what to watch out for there. I think the Bitcoin dominance, guys, let me show you something. Let's look at a 5-year chart. Show me where on this chart Bitcoin dominance is bearish. Okay? A lot of people on Twitter say it's bearish. This doesn't look bearish to me, guys. Maybe down here, right, there was some fake outs. But where we are right now, I mean, we're pushing beautifully up into a move higher. So I don't think there's any reason to think that Bitcoin will underperform alts at this point. I don't think there's, I think the question mark era was down here when I was potentially saying altcoin season could be here, and it wasn't. We got this another move up, and it's not here, and likely that's because of monetary policy. And so now we've got to listen to what the market is telling us, and altcoin season is not here, guys. So I would stay away from alts. I think Bitcoin is king. I think Bitcoin could do well, and of course, while it can drag some of the alts with it, it's likely going to perform everything else in the market collectively. So that's what I would focus on. Those are my thoughts, and we'll keep you posted on the short-term moves. Again, I think there could be one final shakeout in the next 2 weeks. If we don't get it in the next 2 weeks, by maybe early April when those tariffs are actually getting input, I think likely the bottom is in for Bitcoin and we will move higher. I'm predicting all-time highs for Bitcoin in April or May. So I do believe that the challenging times are coming to an end. I would suggest trying to buy now when the fear and greed index is pretty fearful. I'll show you that here, rather than waiting until you're really going to be chasing once it breaks out, which a lot of people always end up doing. We're actually at 49 now, which is still considered fear. That's right about in the middle. I guess we're neutral technically today, but we were in extreme fear and the lowest rating we've ever gotten a few weeks ago. So it's just important to focus on, and we will likely return back to these extreme greed levels, up to the, this got to 94 at one point. I think, sorry about that. I think that's definitely possible. So be prepared for that, and we will, be keeping our eye on the charts and calling out things in our shorts. Feel free to subscribe to either, watch me lose some more money or hopefully do well with me. I'll keep the commentary coming and make sure to really break down the data every time we see it. So far, the main one I've been looking at this week is we get 2 days where breadth in the stock market increases by, so 90% of the stocks are solidly green after a big 10% drawdown in a quick amount of time. Usually that means that there could be potentially one more sweep of the low, but otherwise you're pretty near the bottom, if not the bottom is in. So those are kind of what I'm thinking. I think it's looking decent right now, and that's what I'd be prepared for. Hopefully you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.